To get reaction right now from Nan Hayworth, former Republican Congresswoman from New York and member of the Independent Women's Forum Board of Directors. Also joining her, Brad Miller, former Democratic Congressman from the Tar Heel State. Thank you both for joining this Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Ebony. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Nan, I'll start with you ladies first, of course. Now, the president and certainly his legal team have consistently called this a witch hunt.
Yeah.
I can understand, from a legal perspective why these inquiries feel that way, but many would say, Nan, if the president is true to his word and indeed has done nothing wrong here by way of Russia, why so resistant to the inquiry?
Well, I don't think he's been resistant to the inquiry. Certainly, as you know, Ebony, and you are an attorney, so not on a personal basis. He has made repeated public statements that he's happy to cooperate with Robert Mueller.
So then why do you think, I think that's accurate and fair, Nan, from the president's perspective. Why do you think Rudy Giuliani, one of his lawyers, is calling it a witch hunt?
Well, because the president wisely, of course, has a team of attorneys whose job is to protect the president's right to have a fair process. And, of course, Rudy Giuliani is also a public figure, so it's perfectly within his bounds on a political basis to contend that this is a witch hunt. That does not change, as you know, their legal obligation to continue to cooperate with the process, and they are doing so. So I think we have to separate the political rhetoric from the actual substance of cooperation, and they are cooperating.
And Nan, I have to tell you, I think that's a fascinating point. Brad, let me get your take on that. What do you think of the kind of combining on the part of Rudy Giuliani here to represent the president in both a legal capacity? As Nan points out, they are obviously complying to certainly some degree to the subpoena power of Robert Mueller here in this investigation, but to the political rhetoric of it all, being a little bit defiant. What do you think of that mixture?
Well, it's not the way I would have chosen to do it, but I would also have chosen to be more generally quiet about it than President Trump has been. The truth is, we don't know what the questions have been. We don't know what the written questions were. We don't know what their answers were. We understand from what Trump's lawyers have said that he did refuse to answer some on the grounds of executive privilege.
Particularly those ones dealing with obstruction, Brad, I believe that's what we,
well, really, according to what they've said, any conduct since he's become president that he has refused to answer questions about. So he has said for almost 2 years now that he wants his chance to tell his side of the story, but he doesn't want to submit to an interview, an actual sit-down interview, which would be the norm for anyone but the president, and submitted and refused to answer a lot of the questions on the basis of privilege.
Nan, let me ask you this. Of course, as attorneys, we know there's more control that you have when it's a written documentation, and I'm certainly never going to criticize somebody for doing what's in the best interest of their client, so I understand the written cooperation. But Comey has been indicating that he'd like to have a face-to-face with the president. Why do you think the president is so reluctant if, again, he's being truthful and forthcoming?
When you say Comey, Ebony, you mean Mueller, has wanted a face-to-face with the president. I mean, certainly James Comey, the president's firing of James Comey was entirely within his discretion as the president of the United States. So I firmly agree with the many legal authorities, eminent ones included, who have said that firing does not in any way, shape, or form constitute obstruction of justice.
Oh, no, certainly not. And I would never make that type of accusation here. As we've all said, we don't even know what the questions were and certainly don't know the answers. But again, if the president is being truthful, Nan, final answer, why not just do the interview?
Well, I think it's been well established, Ebony, that the president could face very well a perjury trap. Alan Dershowitz, we know, has talked about it extensively and compellingly. And that would be the same for anyone submitting to an interview. That said, let's bear in mind as well, look, the president has determined that he is providing, and his team, he's providing legal written answers. So those two have a certain weight and gravity because what he said is in writing.
That makes sense. Okay, we got a hard wrap. Got to go. Thank you both, and happy Thanksgiving, both Brad and Nan.
Thanks, Ebony. You too.